Okay guys, let's start then. So yesterday we saw how to create class, method, variables in a class, right? And then how to access it outside of a class. So today we will continue the same and talk about what other things we can add in a class. And let's see. So we talked about this stuffs, methods, variables. So I hope you guys are doing your homework, and if you get an issue or not able to do that, please ask the other guy who is helping you in your coding stuffs after me. Shubham is his name, so he will help you out in that in case. Okay, still that is resolved, let me know. We can resolve together. Okay, so now we are going to talk about constructors. So constructors, anyone knows about constructors? Third thing in our list, which is going to be a part of a class when you create it. No one? Okay, so when it comes to constructors, it's like a part of a class which is used to create object. Okay, used to create object in Java. Okay, so this will help us to create object in Java. Plus one more thing it too, which is quite useful and which is quite handy, and we should know in our early phase when we're learning core Java that it is used to initialize fields of a class. Used to initialize field in Java class. So we already know what is field, properties, variables. That's what I'm talking about here. So you should initialize fields in Java class. So if you want, you can initialize all those fields. How? We will definitely see with examples. So all these two things we will see through examples. Fine. So this is what constructor is used and mostly used. Of course, there are other uses for that, but um, that will come later. But for now, initially we should be aware about these two topics, these two workings of constructors. So first is used to create object. So this is we are doing already. How? Let's see. So once we create any class, I mean how it looks like first of all, you know, let's see that how to create constructors. Right. So if your class name is ABC, fine. So it goes like public, then ABC and curly brace and close. Okay. If your class name is XYZ, curly brace open close. So it goes like public XYZ and this. So you guys can guess what's happening here. Whatever the class name is, you have to create the constructor with the same name. Okay, so it has the same name with your class. So they are same. That's one of the, you can say, that's how you can figure out that this is a constructor and this is a method. And constructors does not have a return type. Return type, anyone? Return type, what is return type here?
Recording in progress.
Anyone? No? Okay, no problem.
Can you return any values for by using the method or constructor?
No, constructor does not return any value. Can you see anything which is returned by constructor? Just keyword and the class name. Constructor never returns anything, only methods do. Okay, I'll put a note here. Looks like a method, but does not return the value. has a same name as class name. Fine. So it has same name like we already saw. Let's create this in in our class and see how it works. So going back to Eclipse, application, src, compact. Let's do this inside basics package. So right click on the basic package, then new, it will create a class, and then think of any class which you want to create. So let's say bottle. Okay. Now we need to create constructor. So as I already said, that if your class name is ABC, so it goes ABC. If it is your XYZ, so it goes XYZ. So that means I have to say public bottle. Okay, screen struck. Done. Okay. This you have to add because that's how it looks like a method, but it's not a method. You have to put a parenthesis. I missed there. But yeah, you can see the name. Whatever class name has, constructor has the same name. And to check whether this code is executed or not, let's put a message. This out. Let's say inside this constructor. Okay, that's it. So again, I'll just leave it that much. A class and one constructor. Keep your code simple enough to understand. Class, I'm going to create a new class and say constructor tester. So anyone knows how to invoke constructors? Okay, so thing is when we create any class or any class, we need to create its object to access certain things, right? So here we have a class bottle. So what I will do, I will create its object. So bottle this new bottle. I hope whoever said 0 on our first class, they are getting it because they're not speaking. So I'm getting that they are very good and they're getting every single thing in first class. So that's really nice. Otherwise, it's fine if you saying not getting, so you have to speak. Okay, so this is how we create object in bottle of bottle class. There it is. And the thing is how to access this, right? We have seen earlier when we were creating method. So this dot method name or this dot um, variable, you can access it. So let's run this code one more time to see. Run as application. So you guys can see we are still getting this message. I haven't invoked it like bottle dot anything which says this name like we did in previous class constructor variables. So that's how it works. So how it's happening then? So let's put this out. Okay, this is what we wrote, and this is from constructor tester. Okay. So what happened when we create any object? You guys have noticed we are writing class name, reference name, then equals, the new keyword, and this thing. This is actually our constructor, guys. Here we were doing from first class that this is we are calling the constructor. Okay, so that's why that message is coming without even having any reference or calling it explicitly. You don't have to call this explicitly. You are calling it once you are creating object. You are actually calling that constructor explicitly. So here we have this message. Okay, so this message is printing. Yes. Okay, this is done. Okay, so this is about constructor. So can we have more than one constructor in a class? Yeah.
I think yes.
Yes, can we have than in our class. So answer is yes, we can have. How it works? So you have to. So there's a term which is quite often used, which say overloading the constructor. Okay, by doing overloading for the constructor. So what is overloading? Let's try to understand this term. So once we have a constructor, how it looks like, this is a constructor. So if you want to overload, what you have to do, just create the same structure like we have. So I copied it, pasting it again. But if you do this in your code, you will get an error. Okay. Overloading, you can say it's like a repetition of the same term here. So what's the constructor name? Bottle. What's the constructor name? Bottle. So Eclipse, or you can say Java compiler, gets confused. It says duplicate method. Even Eclipse is treating this as a method
Method.
because names are same. So how to distinguish it? How to make it different? I mean, have it as a constructor, but they should not duplicate each other. So we can use arguments or variables, parameters here. So I can use int price. Okay, so let's do something here. Int price, and see, error is gone. Now Eclipse understood, or you can say the compiler, the Java compiler, because Eclipse executes your code, or you can say compile your code on the fly. But as soon as you are done with your code, it will compile and see whether something is missing or not. So that compiler is fine. It says okay, we have two constructors. One is default, another one is argument. It's like same thing what we did yesterday. We have types of constructors. We are actually talking about constructors here. Default constructor without argument. This one with argument.
So
And
argument could be any data type.
yep, and like
Okay.
let's repeat this. So going to do this again. I copy it, paste it. So now
Maybe
it's,
string.
yep, I can make it string, and I'll say brand. Yeah, this also works. See, now it has zero arguments. This has one, this has one, but both are different. This one takes integer, this one takes string. And of course, you can have more than one argument. So I can say int price, comma, string, print, and this will also work. So what we are doing here, we are overloading the constructor. And when we go further and you start using, Java classes, inbuilt Java classes or library classes, you will see there are lots of Java classes and they have constructors overloaded as per the requirement with int as a argument.
The constructor without arguments is always default constructor.
Yes, right.
And even if you don't define any constructor, the class will still have a default constructor, right? Which is
Correct. When you are not defining anything, so by default, you will have a default constructor provided by the compiler. If I keep this class empty, so that means compiler treats, okay, so we don't have anything, so it will create a default constructor for your class. But if you provide anything, so it won't. Okay,
it will override.
yeah, you are just simply overriding all this stuff. So that we will see in object programming concepts. Okay, when we do that, not override, because constructor cannot be overridden, but something similar you can say overload. Okay, overriding needs inheritance, if you understand these terms. Okay, so we have these constructors. How to invoke them? Not a big stuff. If we are sure it doesn't have zero, I mean it has zero argument, so we have a zero argument. Next one takes int. So fine. Let's repeat the stuff. Let's call bottle again, then bottle2 equals new, and this time I will call, and you can see when as soon as you press control space, you will see all the constructor listed on. And who is doing this? Eclipse is helping us. So one takes 0, this one take, I'll say 100, and semicolon. Let's run this code and see the output. Run as application. Now you can see with int as the argument. Okay. Okay, so let's go. Likewise, we can call other constructors. Let's say ABC, and you have to make sure the sequence. So first is int, second is string. So int is already there, and I'll say XYZ, and definitely change the references. Okay, done. Let's go run the code, and you can see we are getting all these things: int, string as an argument, right? So that's how it works. Let me put this on paint at one place and have a look again. So this is bottle class. And here comes the output. Okay, so I hope everything makes sense to everyone. If no, let me know. We can revise it again. But this is constructor, and that's one uses what we say. It is used to help in creating object. You have noticed when we were creating object, here we are creating object. So this object is actually created with the help of constructor. If you remove this last segment, we have 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you remove the fourth one, we cannot create object, and that's how it works in Java. So constructor helps in creating object. What's next? Next one says used to initialize fields in Java class. That we will see a little bit later, not now. It will confuse you guys for now. So what you guys have to do, you have to once done with the class, you guys can practice or go for your next homework task, that is try to understand this and super keyword. If you know, that's good. If you don't know or heard this first time, try to cover up these keywords. Okay, this keyword and super keyword, these are two different keywords in or reserved keywords in Java, which is quite oftenly. So do this and let me know in case if you're not able to understand what these are. Okay, so
Excuse me.
yes.
Hello. What is the
Can
main
you explain
objective
that?
of creating constructor?
That's from where we started here. I have highlighted, these are the first 2 points I have written for constructor. Create objects in class and ingest fields in Java class.
When you say initialize fields in Java class, what does it really mean by saying fields?
What did you think in first class?
When you say initialize fields, what fields are we talking?
Oh, that's why I'm asking. Were you in the first class or second class?
Hmm. No, I was not.
That's why you're asking. There it is. You can say when I say class, so it has multiple things. One of the thing is variables, properties of fields. And when we have a class, so that's how it looks like. This is fields or variables or properties. Right now, these are hard coded. I'm just giving my values on the right place, right? Age, you can say 12. It cannot be changed. If I run this code multiple times, I will always get age 12 and name elephant. So if I want to initialize from constructors, that can be also done. So these are the fields. age is a field, name is a field. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, so field, property, variable, all are same here.
Same. Okay.
Like just for the curiousness, like can't we have just like the multiple classes instead of like having constructors?
Multiple what?
Multiple classes. Like can't we just make like a multiple class instead of making a constructors?
Why you are comparing these two things? Both are different. They are just helping each other. Look at again here. We have a class bottle,
Hmm.
and if you don't remove, I mean, if you don't write it, compiler will still give you, right? And you can see remaining three are giving error, but first one is okay.
Yeah.
So once you have a class and you want to definitely if you're creating class, that means you're going to add something in that class. So it could be logic or it could be simple class with some fields and it's getter setters. I mean we will see this later, but something you are going to put inside that class. Once you're done with the class, definitely you're going to use it somewhere. And
Mhm.
if you are going to use it somewhere, you need to create its object so you can access those logics or contents you have added in the class. So you need a constructor to create an object.
Oh,
Huh? Okay. So return back and return back. Fine. So both are different. Don't connect them. Constructor is just a part of a class. Okay. So this is about constructor. We now have some rough idea what constructor looks like. I mean how we can use it and how it behaves, at least in a one line. Now let's add all these stuffs in one class. Variables, int, I mean these fields and constructor stuffs. So let's do that. I'm just thinking. Okay, let's say I'm going to create a class paper. Yeah, you guys can take anything, any example for a class name. So class paper, then I'm going to add, let's say, leave it, say int price and string type. Okay, so we have two fields in a class. Let's add constructor. So paper, of course, public, and it's a class name, so capital P and curly brace, of course. To see its execution, let's put this out.
you have to have the parenthesis.
Oh yeah, thank you. Then inside default, if anything does not take an argument in Java, like a method or constructor, we can say these are default method or default constructor. So without any argument, we can say constructor, default constructor. Okay, so we have two fields, price and type. We have one constructor, paper. Let's get one method. Let's call this public string toString. Okay, I've just created a method. And then say return price equals to price and then type equals to type. Okay, so what I did, I have created all the stuff we have seen so far: variables, methods, and constructors. Fine. Let's do the testing. So we are like combining all this stuff because initially we saw animal, which contains only variables. Then we saw method, which contains only methods. Then we saw constructors today, which contains only constructors. Now we are combining stuffs. So paper here, then going to run this tester class, so new class paper tester, capital P, done. Let's Okay, main method done. Then let's get sets object, right? That's how we do. And one more thing I missed. This, let's initialize them. Equals 10. Let's say paper type. I don't know what are paper types. Just pick that. No, let's say rough paper. Okay, so let's create instance of this class or object of this class paper equals new paper. Done. So if you run this code, definitely we are calling default constructor from here. So all that stuff inside that constructor will be called. So inside default constructor. So right click, run as application. Okay, so we are getting this message from paper class inside default constructor. Let's pick the name as well. Okay, so run as application inside default paper constructor. Now what's next? I need to access these fields. So yep, it's possible. Just use the reference. So I will use this out initially. We saw that if you want to use store in a variable, you can do that. Otherwise, just call the directly. So I'll say price and type. So this double quote price is paper dot price, and likewise I can say type. Okay, so we are trying to print both types in code. So run as application, and we are getting both things, tan and rough. Now time to call that method toString. Let's try to call that paper dot toString semicolon. So it's a method. You don't have to put this in sysout because this is already this contains already sysout. That will get printed. Okay, it is returning. So in that case, I thought I printed there, so I'm not printing. So system, not system, string data. Then we can sys out that as well. Up to you whether you want to print this one line or outer. Data. Okay. So what this method is doing, it is using this as hardcode message, a message. Then variable name, you can see as soon as I click, this gets selected. Then again some message, then plus, and then type gets selected when I click on this. Okay, so we are actually printing both from the toString method. So run as application, and you can see whatever value we have given for these two types, they are like kind of persisted, and then toString method printing all the things. Or you can just remove it as well. If you just keep it like this, just print data. So it will print price 10, type rough. Okay, so we
If we,
just mixed up. Yes.
but it's returning something, so why do you need a sysout? Don't we automatically print if we just call the method toString?
See, when we say print something, we need this out. Here, in selected piece of code, plus here, we don't have this out, so we need this out for print. Right? If I comment this out, it's just a calling. We just call the method and storing in a variable data. But where we are printing, है ना? Printing is done by only this line in Java,
Okay.
है ना?
So return will just call to return to the method, whatever
Right,
value.
right. Return just return that to your variable. So we just called it toString returns string type. So we just creating a variable of string, a variable name, and then use it however you want to do that. Okay. Or
Mhm.
if you don't want to create a variable, just put this thing inside sysout like this. We did that already yesterday.
Inside the print.
Yep, here. Just print it and remove that variable uses. Let me comment that out. and yep, just run the code again, you will get the same output. Okay, same output.
Got it.
Okay, so up to you
Mm.
how you want to use it. So as I said, if you want to use this variable out, I mean, you want to process it or do some manipulation, then use a variable. If you are very sure about that you are not going to use that variable anywhere else, so just put that in a sysout. So totally depends upon your requirement. But what we just saw in example, that you can have all that stuff in one class, and that's quite evident that it's going to happen, because when we talk about Java classes, they are quite fairly straightforward, that if you want to create any class, make sure you are going to use it for other places as well, like write once and then you can use it in multiple places. So same thing you're doing here. So now we know what is variable, what is method, and what is constructor. At least we have idea. We will write again lots of examples, so this will be fit somewhere in your mind that okay, that's how it works. Okay, so let's move to next topic. um, there's a term we call this POJO classes. Anyone aware about this POJO?
Is it like plain only Java object, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's just
Plain
plain
old Java object, I
plain
think.
old Java,
Yeah.
yeah, plain old, not only on. So
Yep.
plain old Java object. Yep, that's a full form. Who didn't get it? Plain old Java object. That's a full form. So that's quite a weird full form, right? So, but it's fairly easy to create that. What you have to do? You have to create a class with 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 private fields. Okay, again we are using fields, and there means fields as public. So what is this private and public stuffs? Anyone aware about that? Private fields, or I mean private or public keywords in Java?
The fields, when you use private, you can't access it outside the class, and when you use public, you can access it outside.
Right, absolutely right. So yes, private means you cannot access them outside of Java class, and public means you can access it anywhere in your um, throughout your project. If something is public, that means you can access it anywhere in your project. So okay, we will see that. But for now, we are talking about POJO class. So plain old Java object, that is full form. And if you have to create any POJO class, so make sure uh, your fields should be private, and you have to create public getter setter method for those fields, and there should be no logic in that class. Okay, we don't put any logic or any business requirement there. We just keep things again straightforward and clean. So write clean code, and that will help you later. So there should be no logic inside the class. If you want to write logic, so create different packages for that: service layers, database layer, controllers, all that stuff, some utility, create outside. But when it comes to POJO class, they should be fairly simple. I mean, they look simpler. So let's create one POJO class and see how it looks like. So going back to Eclipse, create this out. So let's create one class. Let's call this jar. Okay. Now I'm going to create two variables: private int price and private string uh, material type, or just say type. Okay, so what we have, two fields inside class. Now I said I need to create two, these you can see these are two public fields or private variables. Now I need to generate public getter setter for these fields. Okay, going back to the same here, their fields. Yeah, what I wrote here. Let's rewrite this. Public fields and public getter setter for those um, private fields. Okay. Okay, fine. So statement makes sense. Public getter setter for those private fields we have mentioned above. Okay, so we have private fields. Now, how to generate getter setters? So you can use Eclipse for that. Okay, right click on the empty space where your cursor is, there will be generated. So right click, then go for source, then you can see this option, generate getters and setters. So click this. Eclipse will ask for which field you want to generate. So I'll say for both. You can toggle them off, select all, select, or select just getters, or select just setters. So totally up to you how you want to do it. Usually we go for both. If you expand, you can see price has get price and set price. Type has get type and set type. They are just method, guys, and Eclipse helps us to generate them, which is quite common practice in Java programming language to create getter setters. I mean, this is one concept which is followed in multiple languages. Java also supports that, and that's how it looks like. So look one at a time. Let's see the price. So we have a price. So if you want to get the value, so it will return price. If you want to set the value, so set price, and you should have an argument which goes here and initialize this. And you can see we are using this keyword here. That's why we need to understand what is this keyword. And I have given this homework to try to understand that by yourself. And come back tomorrow. I will ask, and then accordingly you can work. And same thing is with get type. So we have variable type. So first is get type. What's the type here? String. So we'll get return string type. When it comes to how to set the type, so setter is here, which takes the string argument, and whatever you will get inside that argument will initialize this section. So let's control Z and let's use them. How to use getter setters explicitly. Okay, so we have a class private fields and public getter setters for those fields. Let's run this code. Saying jar just say okay, just want to name something unique. So if you open this project, you can get to know. Okay, this is a class name. POJO jar tester. Just name it conveniently, whatever you understand. Okay, so again, this is all about fields and methods. So I can access methods by using object of the class and manipulate the value. So let's create object of a class. So jar from basics, then this, then new, then jar constructor. Done. We don't have any constructor, guys. So by default, compiler will add default constructor, and we can use it. And if you even run this code, you won't get anything. Okay, because that implementation from compiler is empty, so it won't print anything. Okay, next we need to set the price. So jar set price. So I just want to set 100. I want to set one more field here. Jar dot set type. Let's say marble. So we have two types here. I mean two fields initialized. Now I want to confirm whether those fields were initialized or not. So what I can do, I'll say sysout jar dot get price. Okay, so price is set 100 here, and we're trying to print the price here just by getter. So we use setter for setting the price. Now we're using getter for getting the price. So price of jar is so right click, run as application, and you can see the amount is coming up 100. The 100 is coming because we have set there above. Likewise, you can say type. So get type of jar is, and let's run the code. Right click, run as application, and we're getting type of jar is marble. Because there's no other external entity which can help us to get and set the things, so we are doing it ourselves. Manually we're doing this. Even in real projects we don't create main methods to execute your code again once again. But if you notice, all these tester class has their own methods to test the functionality. We are just doing all this stuff to test this you can say feature we have added in this jar class, because we are learning POJO class features. So this class, the ultra simple class, is actually a POJO class. This is quite, you can say it's actually common to multiple frameworks we are going to learn in future. You can just name it Hibernate, Spring Core, Spring MVC, Spring Boot. We are going to create lots of POJO classes there. So I don't want you guys to confuse there why um, we are getting this class. The only purpose is it is, maybe someone asks why we need this POJO class. So I'll put a note for that point, Node.js. So let me write it here. To transfer data from one point to another point. And what is that point? We'll see in future. Because this point varies, so that point could be one different technology. Maybe I'm going to um, combine one full stack application which uses Angular and Spring Boot. So if I'm sending something from Angular to Spring Boot as an uh, API call, so I'm sending one data which gets converted. Maybe Spring Boot sending username and password to verify the login. That username password I can create as a POJO class in Spring Boot to map things up. So maybe it won't make sense on first class on POJO topic. So better we'll do that later. But for now, we use POJO class for transferring data from one point to another point, and that one point is Angular, another point is Spring Boot. Okay, I hope POJO class concept is making sense. We will create lots of POJO classes. Even core Java will create lots of POJO classes. And usage is quite simple because we know how to create method, how to create their calling lines, and then how to execute it. What methods? That's why we need to understand how to create methods, how to call the methods, and how to manipulate the values. If I will change, I can even call this later. It's not a fix like I cannot, right? It's just a method. So I can say jar.set type again, and this time say glass. Then I can pick this again, copy, paste, then done. So if I get this type again, so we have already explicitly changed the value. So if I try to execute this again, you'll get glass type. Type of jar is glass. So that's how you can manipulate the values as well. So any question, any doubt, you guys can ask. Otherwise, let's move to next thing. What else we can do? Let's learn toString method. Okay, if you see, I have used this class as well, method somewhere. Paper is okay. So let's do one thing. I'm going to create one more class, or let's use the same existing class, jar class. Okay. POJO jar. This is fine. We are using getter setters. That's cool. And again, I said we never write any logic, so we never do that in POJO classes. If you do that, that's no more any POJO class, just something else, some service file which you're going to use in your logical purpose. Okay, so if I sys out this thing, the jar itself, okay, let's get a new object, so it will be fairly different. Just a separator. Okay, so we have new jar. Okay, that's my object name. Jar. So if I execute this code, let's see the output. I'm just printing directly, right, the object here. See, this is what I'm getting. Anyone knows this? What is happening here? Why we're getting this output?
Is it printing the memory location of that object, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is printing something, you can say memory object, but it's not, again, not the actual memory location, but yeah, something you can say. So yeah, when you do this kind of stuff, we are actually trying to refer that address of that particular thing, that object here in case. But again, this is not a exact location. We can get this kind of information if you have done C language, so that gives us the exact memory location of a system, but not in Java. You will never get exact memory location from the class, from regular classes. You have to go with some other classes. Anyways, so when we execute this code, we are getting this information. Okay, quite weird, right? But if you read it carefully, you will notice most of the things you knows, like com pack basics. This is a package name. Here it is, com pack basics. Then we have a dot which says jar. That's our class name, right? This is our class name, jar. And then at sign, and then some hexadecimal value. Okay, so if you discuss this thing, so you can see lots of information here. Right, so we have three things here. Initially we have package name, then next we have class name, then sign, then some hexadecimal values. So how it is coming up? Yeah, that's the question. Anyone aware about that? How it is coming? We're just printing object. Okay, we'll see that. Not a big.
object is empty?
Uh, no, even if you fill that, you will get the same object empty. Let's fill that. New jar dot set price. Let's say this time 500, and then new jar dot set type. Let's make it steel, iron, whatever. So now object is filled, right? We have some values with that object, and run that code again. Same. It's not going to change because it's a reference. It's a reference. We already know it's a reference. It's a memory reference to your object, not actual memory address, but some kind of virtual address, you can say. Okay, but we know what we are getting, right? We actually getting something which is here. Okay, so let me do one thing and try to manipulate, or let's get some meaningful information, because this does not make any sense. Even for developers, we never get it. Forget about the users. So I will simplify things up. What does it do? It is printing the object, and this is not readable, right? So I want a readable object. So if in future, if I want to print any information about the object, I can get some meaningful information from that object. If I say print this object, so that should be readable. Anyone can read it. Besides developer, if someone is using application, maybe other developer or other person who is not technical. Maybe your some managers are not technical, they are totally in business, they do only management stuff. If they execute your code, if somehow in your logs or in your console, if you print something, they can read and they can get it. So I gave you two scenarios. Mostly it is used for developers to read your object type, to check some information about the object. So I want a readable object. So how to create readable object? Go back to the same class of object from where we are cutting the object. Then do this thing. Right click. Okay. Listen carefully guys if you're not doing right now. So right click on empty space again. Go for source and there's option toString. And it will ask which field you want to highlight. So I'll say both. By default it picks both fields and just click OK. So Eclipse will generate a method for you guys, toString method, and by default it adds a class name, then square bracket, then price, then type, then type. Something I did earlier, right? Here it was much simpler. Price, then price name, then type and type variable. So Eclipse has a standard for generating any stuffs. So first it prints class name, then curly brace, then variable name equals, then plus variable name, which is here, then comma, then type equals, then plus, then type, and then ends with square bracket. This is not a hard code thing. If you want, you can change it as per requirement. But what's the impact once you add this toString method? What does it do? Let's go back and run this code again. So right click, run as application. See, that thing is gone. That whatever was coming out, it is gone. We are getting some readable information, and that is coming from here. So we actually used a toString method. From where it came, for that you guys have to cover one more topic in your homework. If I'm giving something homework, that means you can do it after my class when Shubham take over, or once you go back and see this how it works. So there is a class in Java whose name is object. Okay, so check object class in Java. Okay guys, object. So there's a class in Java whose name is object. From first day we keep saying object, object, object. So in Java we have a class whose name is object. So check this class, what does it do, what kind of method it has, and how they are helpful. Okay, so that's the homework for you guys. Coming back to the topic. So what we saw, when you have a toString method, your object reference will actually print that thing. So how it is happening? By default, when you write this, when your code gets compiled, it will be like dot string. Okay, this is done by compiler. So once your code gets compiled, compiler will do a conversion, and compiler will do this. So when you say new jar, it is actually calling new jar.toString. Since toString was not there earlier, so it was giving a default implementation of toString. If you override method, so we will getting this toString. If it is not making sense, don't worry about that. Once we start working object-oriented programming concept or OOPS concept, which is going tomorrow, so then we will see how it works. Okay, but for now, that's it. So let's break this up. So if you simple terms, why we need toString? To make your object readable, to give us some meaningful information about this class. Okay, so this is it. Okay guys, so that's it for today. So practice this much code with Shubham and whatever topic he is covering. So continue on that. Let's meet tomorrow, same time, and we'll start OOPS concept. Okay, bye everyone.